few years ago, I was up at our home in Chehalis, Washington. We bought a home up there. Chehalis is on the Interstate 5 between Seattle and Portland, Oregon. My wife had gone and she was visiting relatives up there, and so I had the house to myself. Big old house. Oh man, I was a big shot. If I wanted to turn on the air, the heater, I just walked around like I owned that joint. You know what I mean? Big house. Until I got the electric bill. I got the electric bill, been raining outside and cold like that, and I went into her sewing room and got a space heater and paid the electric bill. I lived in that room for about 6 weeks till she came back. And in that room there'd be a light drizzling rain and cold like it does in the Northwest up there. And I got to going every day down to the Methodist church. What they had down there was a soup kitchen. Now, I had money for food and everything, but I was lonely. And I went to go down and be with the bums, you know, the bikers and the bums. People come in, the food bank and whatever. I got me a book down there, George Whitefield. I'd read a couple chapters of that every day down at the soup kitchen just because I was lonely. Every day was the same thing, a bologna sandwich and a bowl of chicken noodle soup. But I didn't care, and I come up and I got lonely and pining for my wife. When she first left, you know, I kind of liked the break. We're 24/7 together for 30 years, rubbing up against each other, you know. And so she went, but I got to missing her. And that big lonely house up there, and I got to missing her, and I got to get lonely up there. And finally the day she came back to the SeaTac airport, I drove up there and collected her more. I don't think it was a couple hours before we got in a fight. It was just wonderful, you know, retrieving my wife again. It was great. And I got her back, and Janet was back, and we were back together. But I remember those days and sitting in that sewing room up there, and the rain would come down. I was so lonely. And I got so, you know, tonight I'm lonely. I'm lonely for heaven, though. I'm lonely for heaven. I just can't wait for heaven. And I'm just so lonely. If I thought I could get away with it any possible way, I'd commit suicide right now. I hope I have a heart attack right now. I hope I do. But I probably won't, because my wife said God wants to use me. He doesn't want to, you know, and like the preacher said, I need to be a soldier and get some backbone. But I'm lonely tonight for heaven. I'm lonely. I want to see the sights of heaven. The sights. On a deputation years ago and coming up now, we take our motorhome and we park in back of real fancy motels like the Hilton and the Sheraton and the Marriott. Real fancy. I'd park way in the back there. And then I'd go in the back, I'd get my call sheet. See, so us missionaries, we call preachers for meetings. So I'd go in the phone booths of the Hilton and the Marriott and the Sheraton Hotel. I'd go back in the phone booth. Oh, they'd be paneled and lots of phone banks and everything. And I'd go down and make my calls for meetings. And I'd make my calls, and I'd get tired in 2 or 3 hours making calls, and I'd come out and I'd sit in the lobby of the Hilton or the Marriott and the Sheraton. And I'd get me a Coca-Cola, and I would sit there and I start looking around. I'd look over here and I'd see a glass elevator going up 5 flights to outside balcony rooms. I'd look over here and I'd see a fountain. And I'd look down and I'd see this floor look like a black and white marble or something like that. And all these paintings and rugs. And I'd say to myself, man, this is sure a fancy place. And a thought would come into my mind, church, this is a dump compared to where you're going to end up, Bill. This is a chicken coop compared to where you're going to end up in heaven. I can't wait to go to heaven because of the sights. Years ago, there was a New Zealand chief's son. His name was Tamabama. And they brought him to the famous Buckingham Palace in London, England there. And they brought this chief's son to the palace, and they showed him all around. And the paintings, the Renoirs and the Monets. And the dining table that stretched out from here to the back of the parking lot with the chandeliers. And all the fancy Persian rugs and the grounds and the fountains. And they were, you know, kind of ribbing him, giving him, you know, punched him. Well, what do you think of the palace, chief? He said, my father's house is better than this. They said, chief, you live in a mud hut in New Zealand. What do you mean? He said, my father in heaven, his house is better than this. And I guarantee you, when you get to heaven, you're going to see some things that'll knock your eyes out. I've been to Hawaii. They put us up on Waikiki there on the 10th floor. And I could see Diamond Head over there, and I could see that pea green water and that sun disappear into that thing and set like that. Hawaii, it's a beautiful place. They put us up there, and I've seen some places, Janet and I. We've been to New York City. We've seen the skyscrapers. We've seen, you couldn't tell we were tourists. It's a wonder we didn't get mugged. You know what I mean? We're walking around. Golly, Janet, look at there. That's the Chrysler Building right over there, girl. And you see that? That's the Empire State Building. And you can almost see King Kong crawling up there, grabbing that blonde woman up there. I mean, it was good to see those sights up there at the Empire State Building and everything. It's a little too high for me, but it still was a good time. Yes, I've seen the tallest structure west of the Mississippi, the stratosphere, up there in Las Vegas. Seen the Swiss Alps over there with my friend Nico Vierhoff. Nico Vierhoff took me up mountain climbing. Well, just for a ways. I got tired. I had to go back and get a schnitzel. But he said that's where the mountain climbers go. And up there, there's a story about those mountain climbers. A young climber got up there, and he got in a rough spot. And they asked this old mountain climber to go up and rescue him. And this old mountain climber had been retired for years. But he said he'd go. And he went up there and he got the boy up and he got him safe. And then he fell 4,000 feet to his death, the old man. They put a plaque to him, it's there right now. And you know what the plaque reads? He died climbing. Wouldn't it be wonderful, Christian, to have a plaque for you? He died tracking, he died preaching, he died trying to live for God. That'd be a wonderful thing, wouldn't it? Yeah, I've seen a few things. Wasn't too many years after Janet and I married that I got her a diamond. And I went to my Uncle Freddie, and he's deals in gold and silver and jewels, and he's a gambler and card player in the streets of Portland, Oregon. Taught me how to gamble, play pool, cards. So I got saved and went to Uncle Freddie there, and I said, I want to buy Janet a diamond. He said, all right. He said, what do you want to spend, Bill? I said, about $400. So he said, all right. So he took me to Affordable Jewelers at Southeast 4th and Alder, downtown Portland, Oregon. We went in there, and that jeweler spread out the diamonds on a felt, had the lights in there, and the things were sparkling like that. And he said, Bill, you can have it two ways. You can have a pretty big diamond for your money, close to a carat. Carat's 100 points. Or a smaller diamond, it'll be better quality, but it'll be a perfect diamond. He said, now the big diamond will have a flaw in it, but you can't tell it unless you got a loop, magnify. No one will ever know. So I went to Janet, and of course she wanted the small one, the good one. So we went and got her a 42-point, perfect blue-white diamond, perfect cut. Went to the pawn shop, bought her a mounting for that, just a small gold mounting, 14-karat gold with 6 prongs, so you don't lose the stone. And I watched that manufacturer jeweler through a big magnifying glass and a blowtorch mount that stone in there like that and polish it all up. Gave it to her. And you know, church, sometimes as we travel in the pickup truck along these secondary highways through Alabama and Mississippi, and the light is shining through us on the cab of that truck, that cab will just light up. It'll light up orange and green and purple and gold and yellow, and it'll light up in there, and I get to wonder what this light show, where's this coming from? And then I look down at her hand, and it's a diamond. So I'll just play with it a little bit. You know, like you did in grade school when you put the magnifying glass on the back of that guy's neck, and Bernie, you remember? And so I take this stone and play with her finger, and the whole thing just lights up like that. I should have got the diamond for myself, church, and you know, I should be wearing it right now. It's a beautiful stone like that. Can you imagine going to a city where there's stones of yellow and purple and green and gold, way bigger than this building, and they're all shining, the streets are gold, and the city just knock your eyes out. Oh, there's going to be some sights when we go to heaven. I can't wait to go to heaven because of the sights. And I can't wait to go to heaven because of the sounds. I worked in Oakland, California for a while. They got these oak trees about every 30, 40 feet. And I got off at 5:30 in the morning. And when I come out of that dairy at 5:30 in the morning, these birds seemed to all want to have a meeting there in the trees at 6 in the morning. Because these birds, I don't know where they come from, all over the Bay Area there, but they'd be chirping and having a meeting. It was so beautiful, the sound of those chirping birds in there as they were having fellowship, those birds. Oh, I want to go to heaven because of the sounds. You know what Janet and I like to do in California the best? We get our deck chairs and we go down by Santa Monica Pier and we put our deck chairs out, or just a folding metal chair we borrow from the church or everything, and she'll read missionary books. And I'll read something, and we're just sitting out there, and pretty soon the sound of that water coming in goes, ooh, poof, and the breakers breaking, ooh, poof, and it's a sound like that. I never can go to sleep in that warm sand out there like that, but that's a beautiful sound. God's water coming in and breaking over like that. I want to go to heaven for the sights, and I want to go to heaven for the sounds. You know, I like the sounds of little children for about 10 minutes. But little children, they're playing, and but it's children, that's a wonderful sound like that. I like that. I like the roar of the African lion. Remember that thing on that movie picture, Metro or something? Remember that guy? Man, I've heard that sound in Africa. And there's no doubt he's the king of beasts. If he can't whip everybody, he's got everybody convinced he can. Because that thing is a whoa, a whoa. But you know, I studied up on that lion a little bit. And you know why he's so tough? He's got that mane. And so a leopard or some other cat, just as strong or stronger, try to fight him. And they get their mouths tangled up in their hair. And they can't get to his throat. And that's why he whips them real good. The lion is truly the king of beasts. I love the roar. I love the roar of the Niagara Falls. You go over on the American side of Niagara Falls, don't cost you nothing. You go over there and you can see that water just going, woo. Many times I wanted to get a barrel and say, Jesus saves, you go over on that sucker, you know. But I'd probably survive, or, you know, something like that. So I give up on that idea, you know. I like that sound. I like the sound when my mama used to call me in for supper. She said, Bill, your supper's ready. And the sound that I want to hear, but I probably won't hear, but I would love to hear this sound, and I prayed about it just a little while. I'd like the sound to say, well done, Bill, thou good and faithful servant. But that probably won't happen in my place. No, I want to go to heaven because of the sights and the sounds and the saints. When I got saved, I went a long ways on a Greyhound bus and witnessed to my mama. And in Rancho Cordova, California, I got away from a stepdad out into a rocky, dry creek bed. And we knelt there, and I told her the whole story. And she said, well, Bill, I was raised in a Catholic orphanage in Canada. And I said, Mama, that won't get it. That won't get it. I said, Mama, would you say the sinner's prayer with me and mean business? She said, sure, son. So after she said that prayer, I held Mama up, got her up, looked at her face. She was just bawling. I had ball and snot all over me, everything. I said, did you mean that prayer, Mama? She said, of course I did, son. Of course I did. No, I want to go to heaven to see the saints. I want to go to heaven just to see her. I like to see the mighty men. They got these cage fighters now. What are those, MFW or WCs? I don't know what they are. Pretty tough guys, right? Chuck Liddell or something. Hey, no, better not run up against David's mighty men. That guy that defended that bean patch, you know, and 800 and fought a lion and fought a bear down there. I want to meet some tough guys. I like tough guys. I want to meet those tough guys down there. I want to go to heaven to see the great preachers. Oh, I want to go to heaven to see Whitfield preach to 80,000 in the fields. You talk about a street preacher. This guy could preach. This guy was a little short guy. He was a little dumpy guy. He had one bad eye that went like that. He couldn't whip a mouse. But boy, when he mounted the pulpit and got up in the pulpit, women fainted, men that were going to kill him come and passed out and got saved. I mean, he was a mighty man of God. Whitfield. Then I want to see Sankey and D.L. Moody influenced over a million men for Christ. And Brother Wood, Brother Lackey, and Adrian Rogers. I want to see the great preachers. I'm actually a preacher groupie. If you go to any church where I'm at, I'm on the front row. I love the preacher to spit on me. I love it. I love preaching. I love fat preachers. I love tall preachers. I love them even if they can't preach a lick. I still love them. I was in an outfit in Alabama. The guy could not preach a lick, but he was preaching on the cross. And boy, the God got in there. The Holy Ghost got in there. Everybody got to shouting and waving and throwing around. And I said, you got a good subject, preacher. Amen. Jesus Christ. Start preaching on him, and business will pick up. I want to go. I want to see the great praying Hyde. John Hyde. He wasn't a preacher. He was a prayer warrior. I read his book. You ever read his book? This guy, like, if he would come to this meeting, he would go to Mrs. Lancey's house and said, could I have a room for a week and stay down there? And she'd say, all right. So he'd go down there and start praying. Everybody else would come in the meeting. They'd go down to Beale, and they'd go around. He'd still be praying. 2 or 3 days go by. She'd knock on the door with a plate of food. He'd open the door, and he would just be glowing. And he'd push the door closed. He said, no, thank you, sister. And he'd get back on his knees and praying. I told the Lord after I read that book, I was bawling. I said, Lord, forget this preaching. I want to be like Praying Hyde. You know what he said? You can be, Bill. Guess I didn't want it bad enough, huh? But I want to see him, and I want to see the sights and the sounds and the saints. And brothers and sisters, I can't wait to get to heaven to get free of self. Amen. Oh, to be free from Bill Eubanks. Oh, the rotten, filthy, rotten monster of a man. You know, in the 15th centuries, what they do on the battlefield, they go through there collecting the swords and everything, and if they found a guy that was alive, they wouldn't kill him. They'd chain him to a corpse, and then he'd have to drag that corpse around till he died. That's your case, and that's my case. You're your own worst enemy. The devil's not too much interested in you. And you probably got the world pretty well where you're not magnetized about it. But that thing you look in the mirror, it don't want to go street preaching. It don't want to read the Bible. It don't want to pray. It wants to watch TV and a bunch of other junk. Amen. It does. And you've got to get rid of that thing. You've got to kill him. Amen. Kill Bill. That's what I want to do. I want to kill Bill. Randy Chapman, he used to work for Chick Publications, and everybody's got an idea for chick tracts. They tell Jack, you know. And so Randy and I came up with an idea for a chick tract. Him and I we'd be the characters in the chick tract. And we're walking along a real dark street where the street lights are just orange and not real bright. And the moon cloud would go between the moon and it'd get real dark. You walk along and a light rain would be falling, and then every once in a while a lightning would flash and crash like that. And then we'd see a house like a mid-Victorian mansion, and we see this house, and something would compel us to go up and go in there, but we were afraid, but something would get us up on the steps. And then when we tried the door, it was unlocked, and we go, "Creak," and get in, and the door shuts behind us. Lightning bolt flashes across through the windows, and a bat flies over, cobwebs hit us, in the face. We're walking around, and then we get back there, and we're walking and studying that place and go through the study, and then we back up to a wall. And you remember those old Abbott and Costello movies where the wall turned around like that? We'd get that wall, the wall would turn around, and we'd see two monsters in front of us. Ah! 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 And we'd look real close, and it was us. It was Randy and me. We were the monsters. We were the terrible ones. And that ain't the half of it. Oh, to get rid of Bill. I want to go to heaven to get rid of self. I just gotta. You men, you got a computer? You got a computer, man? Are you online? Not this boy. I don't want to be online. There's some stuff online that might trap me, and I don't want to look at it. And being a red-blooded man, it kind of draws me into that. I'm not brave enough to be online like a lot of you guys. Not for me, fellas. We're old-fashioned, email and the library. My wife goes to the library, check the email. Well, we don't know what we're doing, but it don't make no difference. We're not going to get one of those screens. You know, that flesh is never going to be satisfied. It's never going to, never. It's too hot in here. Well, turn the air on. Let's get some. It's too cold in here. It's too cold. Preacher, turn the heater on. I want mayonnaise on my tuna fish. I want mustard on my hot dogs. I want ketchup. Oh, shut up and just eat the thing. Why do we have to have everything just like we got to have it? Spoiled brats, everything like that. It's never satisfied. It's just never satisfied. I'm dying to go to heaven because of the sights, the sounds, the saints, goodbye to self, and the last one. I can't wait to go to heaven because of the Savior. Amen. Now, Janet and I, we made plans before our retirement. See, there's no retirement in this business. I mean, we're a wheelchair. You can't get around. Into the early stages, we'd go to Portland, Oregon. Got good bus service. We get the senior bus, go all over and hand out tracts at the bus exchange. Lately, we've been thinking about trying to die down in Africa. Hope that happens. But if it don't, and we end up in the Baptist Manor in Portland, Oregon, it's assisted living. It's where you can't navigate no more, and they send you. Janet and I will go there. Janet won't have a room with me. I'll just be dirty old man. I'll have a bathrobe and pajamas on. I'll have food all over the front, no shave, no bath, just dirty. She'll be clean. She'll have a roommate, you know, and they'll be together in their little room. But nobody will want to live with me. And I'll be about half crazy, and I have me a wheelchair, and I have me a cane. You can get away with things when you get old. And I'll come in to somebody, and I'll just wrap that cane on. Hey, you going to hell? Like Papa Woods used to say. He wouldn't say, are you going to heaven? He'd say, you going to hell. You going to hell? I'd band that thing in there. And then go around, you know, and be just ugly and everything, bump into people, everything. But Jello again? What's the matter? Whatever happened to hamburger? Did that go out of existence? And I'm banging people around and everything. I'd be hard on them nurses' assistants too. Hey, nursey. I want that ball. I want the Seahawks on. They're playing the Saints, and I want the Seahawks on at 6 o'clock, and you better have that thing on. I want to watch it. And I watch it, and I bang those things. Preachers would come in Sunday to minister to us. I'd go up to them. I said, that better be a King James Bible. You're going to get a rap over the head, young man. Whap! Now you preach it. You see this guy over here is going to hell. Ask George, you going to hell? And they're going to hell all over the place. Now you preach it good, boys. These people are 1 foot on a banana peel and they're slipping into hell. Now you go for it. And I'll be in there and I'll be remember the times. I went to Europe with Jimmy Hood and Nico and different things, and memories have flood back to me. And laugh how I tricked Janet to marry me. I got her, beautiful woman. And I got her, and I'd be in there laughing and stuff. And the attendants would say, well, what's that? That's crazy, Eubanks. Don't worry about it. He's harmless. He won't hurt you. He's crazy. And so I'd be in there and I'd be laughing. And then one night, I'll be in that room about 3:30 in the morning. And I'll be sitting there kind of in and out. And all of a sudden, that room will light up like downtown Glitter Gulch of Las Vegas, like 1,000,000 flash bulbs and 100,000 spotlights. And that room will be pure white. And I'll sit up on my bed, and 2 shiny figures will appear and just come down by my bedpost. And they'll say, you ready to go, old man? I said, boys, I've been ready for 12 years to get out of this dump. They said, okay, it's your time, come on. And they'll help me up, and I'll get to the head of the bed, and one will get me under one shoulder, and the other and everything. And we'll go up to the ceiling and through the outer space and the first, second, third heaven and star clusters in the stratosphere, and we'll go on and on the galaxies and out there, and they'll sponsor me down into a place, and it's just like a shining river and a sea of glass. And I'll look over there and I'll see a city shimmering like in those cowboy movies, like a mirage. And I'll say, is that it, boys? And they'll say, that's it, Pops. And then I know what's coming next. They say, somebody wants to meet you. And I'll go over there, and they'll put me down in front of a great big palace with trumpeters. On each side, golden doors will open, and they'll just shove me in, and the doors will close. And I'll be inside that great palace, and the smoke will be so thick, I'll drop to my knees, and I'll drop to my face like those Navy SEALs do, and I'll start crawling. I start crawling, and I'll look down that ivory aisle there, and I'll see a throne, and I'll see some feet that got holes in them, but they got jewel sandals on. Then I'll pull myself up to those feet, and I'll cry on those feet like that woman that cried on his feet, wiped the tears with her hair. And a voice will say, stand up, Bill, stand to your feet. You know, stand up knowing the sin and the treachery and the broken vows and broken lies and promises. What a rat I am. And I'll stand up and look into those eyes and love me and died for me. And he'll say, Bill, you were one of my worst down there. You know that, don't you? Yes, Lord. But you were filthy enough. It was kind of worked in your favor because you knew you couldn't get to heaven by works. I'll say, yes, Lord. And he said, you believe the whole gospel, and that's what I required of you. And their sins and iniquities I'll remember no more, Bill. It's under the blood. And enter into the joy of the Lord. I'll go in there. Hi, Dr. Ruckman. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Mom. Hi. And I'll get out there. And the thought will go through my head, forever, 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 and forever, I'll be with the Lord. And I'm going to close with this illustration. A man in the 40s had 7 kids. And he took them all, and he took them downtown. He's a hard-working man. And he took them, and he gave them each $1. And he said, now, Christmas is coming up, and I want you to take this $1 and buy your mama a Christmas present. And they all went and scattered, and they come back in a half hour. Only one little girl bought candy with her $1. The rest bought a present for mama. So Christmas come, and they had the presents out there, and the kids say, come on, kids, and give Mama your present. She was sitting there, and the kids, one by one, gave Mama her present, till the last little girl screamed like a banshee. She had spent her money on candy and didn't have nothing to give Mama. You know what? We can't pay God back for what he's done, so there's no amount of payment. But we can get a crown, maybe a soul winner's crown, maybe a crown of rejoicing, maybe it's coming. I think there's 7 of them, 6 or whatever. And we get a crown and cast it at his feet. Now we can do that. With his help, we can earn a crown and give him a present for all that he's done for us. Amen. I want to go to heaven tonight. But until I do, I want to serve Jesus Christ. And I'll tell you something, I'm the worst Christian in the outfit here. But I've made up my mind I'm going to serve God, and I'm going to work for him till I have breath.